No shock here, but former Prince Andrew, now just Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, was arrested on his birthday for stuff. And then there's a young lad running around the socials right now. I found out after looking into it that he actually works for the Blaze Media, which, interesting, but whatever. And he is trying to take down or debunk thoughts from Black History Month or stories from Black History Month, and I don't like his tactic. There's something that I want to get into specifically about MLK. And then in that theme of Black History Month, there is a white teenager who was awarded $3.5 million from a judge from a black mother who used him for a race hoax. And then Russia, in global news, has decided that now is the time to move its warships into Iran, and especially into their ports, and to do military drills with Iran around the USS Abraham Lincoln, which is our aircraft carrier in the area, in case you didn't know. And then the biggest story of them all, guys. This is the biggest story of the entire week. It's been going on for a little bit, but, the story's been going on. But I'm sure this is your first time hearing it. The Olympics. The Canadians are cheating. I mean, who would have thunked it when you think about, the nicest people in the world? I mean, obviously, at least that's the perception that they have. However, I have some funny stories about that. So we'll get into just how friendly the Canadians are. And Canadians, this is not you in general. This is your team. I have a feeling that you guys are very nice. But we'll get into what's been going on. Welcome to The Ripple Effect. So to start off with, if you could please like, comment, and subscribe, it tremendously helps the channel, and it helps us learn the things that we need so we can actually make more of an effect around us, and it gives us more opportunity to reach more, which again is the idea of everyone reaching someone today through outreach, through the Bible, through politics, however we can do that to reach someone, to change someone's mind and understanding to what is right and what is good. And what's funny is, I was actually thinking about this before I get into anything, it's so clear on the right what we believe, and our standards for everything, our right and wrong are so set. But the left, I talked about this in my last video, AOC's has such a hard time answering questions because she doesn't actually know what she believes, because when you're trying to defend all these horrible, wicked things, it's hard to actually put your finger on what exactly you believe. Now, to start off with, we're going to talk about Andrew. Now, formerly Prince Andrew, as everyone knows him, and everyone is talking about how the tactics the government of UK used to take him down are kind of dodgy. So they're not really nailing him on a lot of things that would be concrete, so to speak, and they're very circular on their topic of compared to how everyone would want him taken down. It's almost like Al Capone, just in a weird way. They're coming at him very oddly, very strange, and going after basically him selling secrets to Epstein. And after listening and reading a lot of things from the different commentators out there and the analysis from this, I think everyone's barking up the wrong tree. I don't think they're 100% wrong. I think that everyone has their right to their opinion, but everyone is saying that he's being offered up to the mob, kind of in general. Like he's being offered up to the mob instead of anyone else because Epstein's files are out there and people need a head, right? So the most obvious person, I mean, maybe Bill Clinton, I guess, but the most obvious person that's easily accessible, easily able to be taken down is Prince Andrew. And I think that's true, but not in the way that they're intending it. First off, the Starmer government in England has been really getting hit because, come to find out, they had a lot of connections with Epstein, and even after they knew that Epstein was let's just say guilty of unsavory things, they were still in connection with him in very, very, like in bed with him in very, very bad, horrible ways. And I think the UK government was starting to feel this heat of all this intrigue and involvement from other people looking into them, that I think them going after Prince Andrew is a good way of dodging that and removing the pressure and the prominence on them to the most prominent person in the Epstein files. Really, I mean, if you think of one person who you should think should be nailed down with sexual crimes from the Epstein files, it's Prince Andrew. But they're not even going about it based off of his sexual crimes, because apparently he paid out millions of dollars. Some people assume up to $14 million to the victim of his crimes, or at least the alleged victim of his crimes. But I really think it's a distraction from the government, because there was a good talk that the Starmer government might be on its way out, might be toast. And them going after the prince definitely changes the narrative in England about what's exactly happening. And we'll see where it ends up going. But just be aware that as people are taken down, this is the one thing I want you to take away from this. As people are being taken down in the Epstein files situation, all that stuff, it's interesting to know what evidence is filed against them, and what the accusations are that are being filed against them. So in this situation, I think they're going after him for basically selling out state secrets to Epstein, and we'll see if that sticks and what exactly that entails and what proof they have for that. Now, I think he was, but it's interesting that they're going after him that way and not in other ways. Of course, it always seems to be that if I forget to turn off my phone, that always during the videos, my phone goes off. So Russia decided now that this is the best time ever to bring its warships into Iran's ports, and not only to bring it into the ports, but also to have practice war games and drills there purposefully around the Abraham Lincoln. Like, they're intending to go around there. Now, at least that's their current intentions at the moment. However, this poses some issues for Iran. Let's just say last time our Navy and their Navy got into a shooting match, it didn't go very well for Iran. And I think if they pose too much of a threat as they come around and do their practice drills and their war games around the aircraft carrier, I think they have a very good likelihood of losing their entire fleet in, their entire Navy in about 4 seconds. So they have to be very, very careful, because from what we know, there seems to be more military vessels in the area from America now than has ever been in that area, except for during the Iraqi invasion, which tells you we are prepared and planning for something big. And if they're going to mess around, they might find out for themselves just how hostile it can be. The only thing that they might get away with is that they shield themselves behind the Russian vessels that are there. And here's my question. Does Russia want a war? Is Russia trying to go to war? Is Russia trying to cause a war with us by getting into a shooting match with us with our fleets? I mean, they know that we're ready to do something, and them putting their noses in here is, I'm going to say it, they're calling out Trump. They're calling out Trump. So Trump said, don't cross this line. If you cross this line, you're toast. They crossed that line. Iran did. Okay, several times. And then he said, stay in the streets, keep protesting, help is on the way, and then help is not on the way. So either Trump is a lame fish, and guys, before you start going off on he hates Trump, no. What I'm saying is, either Trump is a lame little fish who can't do geopolitics right, or he's going to have to take action, and he's going to have to do some serious work in Iran. And I think Russia is poking to see what that choice is going to be. And honestly, I hope and believe that Trump will make the right choice. I honestly do. But we're going to have to see what that choice will be, especially since there is such a massive buildup in the area. And he's making statements about, like the Diego Garcia Islands. There's a lot of stuff happening there. Just be aware that we've kind of put our name on the block there. And if we don't hold to it, Russia's showing us that if we don't hold to our word to Iran, that they might be pushing back in Ukraine, and you might see a surge that we were not expecting, or no one was expecting, in Ukraine to fully take it over. And then in the follow-up thing too is, on that note, is if Russia sees this, it'll quickly be communicated to China that we're pathetic and that we can't do what we want. And you could also see an invasion of Taiwan. Xi Jinping has been getting things prepared over in China too, to potentially invade Taiwan by removing a lot of his top generals. Now, on the theme of Black History Month, I thought it was interesting to go into the fact that a white teen was awarded $3.5 million by a judge from a black mother who had decided to use him as a racist hoax to raise money on GoFundMe. So she created this whole fake scenario, and drug him through the mud of all this to raise money. And the story behind this isn't just so much that it's a black person having to pay a white person, or that a white person getting retribution for black racism. It really is that bad people do bad things. And sometimes we have to pull ourselves out of these situations and say, guys, bad people will use bad things and bad hoaxes to do bad things, especially if there's money involved and they want money. And you can see this with the Me Too movement, where there was a lot of good coming out of that, even at the beginning. And I know that's questionable back and forth whether some of it was good, but some of it was good. It changed some of the narratives on how we were dealing with stuff. And then two, you see it now where then people were using it very much. And this became the end headline for me too, was that women were using it to basically blackmail people. And you know how they would sleep with someone, but then decide months later, I really didn't enjoy that. And I don't know, maybe I felt pressured or something. And so then change their consent after the fact. So there's a lot of darkness out there. And this situation is definitely someone who's using a system that they see for easy cash and easy money. And the darkest part of this, the meanest part of this, is the fact that she had no problem destroying a young man because she wanted her money. And so she's losing now because she ended up having to pay him out for $3.5 million. And hopefully that'll help people understand that there are dangers to doing bad things. And then there's another one that I found out about. I was listening, and I'm not a fan of this. I'm not a fan of this, okay? So I grew up listening to a lot of history and knowing a lot of history and that kind of stuff. And I think, honestly, we get it wrong sometimes in the conservative movement on things. And apparently there's a young man, John, I think is his first name, from Blaze, who's going out he's on like day 16, or what is it? Day 19 probably, but day 16 was the one where he did it on MLK Jr. And going off on how horrible MLK was and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whoa. Okay. Is he right in just about everything he's saying about MLK? Probably. But there's an issue that we face sometimes in history, that heroes like to be destroyed after the fact. People like to destroy heroes after the fact. And we have a lot of heroes in our country who have done a lot of bad things. And I prefer that we sometimes forgive them of some of the past, keep it knowledgeable of it. I understand that. But instead of tearing down someone like MLK, we can highlight the fact of what he really was known for and what the usefulness from him is. And if you were to boil down MLK, if you were to ask anyone to boil down MLK, what would they say? That he wanted people, whether or not this is true, whether or not people wrote his speeches, whether or not he did horrible things, I don't care. But if you were to boil down MLK Jr., what they would say is this: he wanted people to judge someone from the contents of their heart and their character, not from what color they were. And I'm totally misquoting that, but you get the point. That's what should be remembered. Okay? And going out there to purposely destroy the man because it's Black History Month is the wrong tactic. And we keep doing this over and over again. I don't say that it's wrong if someone is deifying, and I saw a tweet from Charlie Kirk from back in the day saying the deification of MLK Jr. was what destroyed a lot of society. Cool. I understand the deification of anyone will do that. The deification of Charlie Kirk will do that, will destroy people. What I'm saying is remember them for what they're good and put aside the bad. If you want to use it as a lesson for something in a specific situation, sure. But this broad stroke destruction, I don't like. And you can see that effect is the same thing that we've had the negative effect of the broad stroke junk that was going on in Minnesota, where I mentioned this, where it's like, guys, you don't go into a taco shop, eat their tacos, and then arrest everybody because they're illegals. That's just visually horrible. We don't do visually horrible things because we're supposed to be good. We're supposed to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. That's why I don't like this philosophy at all. And to summarize all of this and to bring it all to conclusion, the biggest story of the entire time is the Canadians cheating. Now, this has gotten interesting because, I will say the Canadian versus America thing has gotten interesting, and now the Canadians versus everybody. Last Olympics, it was the Americans versus the Canadians in the Olympic hockey, men's, and when they got to the end, the Canadians beat us, unfortunately. But it was good. And I don't know what's going on with Canada, but they cannot put ads together. So we put out an ad for our American hockey, and it was very good. It was it was exciting. It was like Eagles, like we're gonna go destroy them, right? And the Canadians were like, you're weird, you're strange, but we're friends and we're family and we're diverse. And everyone's like, that's your comeback ad to the Americans? And again, this is no offense to the Canadians, but get better at this. Like, come on, get better with your smack talk or something. This is just garbage. Well, it's now heating up because I believe on Sunday is the finals for all the gold round matches, which just seems like it again will be America versus Canada for women and men, which is very interesting. But The women's hockey team from America has been doing really, really well. They scored, like last time, again, I don't know, I haven't watched any of the recent games, but last I looked at it, we had scored something like 31 points against the opposing teams with only allowing 1 goal on us the entire time, which is insane. Insane, okay? And then now, the biggest story of it all was curling. I know everyone is just super excited about curling this year. And I will have to admit, it was getting interesting. I was getting into it too, with all the curling that was going on. Well, it is now a meme on how famous this is, where the Canadian pushes the stone out, and then goes dink to push it forward. And there's these little nudges that they do to him to get him to go exactly where they want if they release badly. And you're not supposed to touch the stone at all. You're only supposed to touch the handle. That's the only place you're allowed to touch it. So it's a big scandal. What's funny is the Swedes knew this was going to happen, and so they set up another camera to be filmed from the side so they could catch the Canadians doing this. The Canadians didn't know this, and in fact, the Canadians later on said, "Oh, we didn't know that they had set us up for getting called out." You cheated. So are you just admitting that you cheated because now you're upset that they set you up by putting a camera on the right angle so they could catch you? It's wild. And the Canadian goes crazy. Now, what's funny is, back when we lived in Siberia, Russia, there was a lot of Canadians who came through the area that were miners. And my dad will tell you that some of the nastiest, meanest people in the world were those Canadians. Now, I don't know if this is true. Canadians, please post in my comments if there's anyone from Canada that's watching. I'm pretty sure you guys are very nice, but this is kind of starting to hurt your reputation a little bit. So maybe you can tell your curling team that shouting the F word to the Swedes for calling you out on cheating is probably not a great choice. And if ours did it, I would call them out too. So don't get all hostile with me. But that is the story that we've been going through. And I hope these stories are useful to you and helpful to you and fun, so we can all learn, we can all reach out, and we can all grow together and make an effect around us. Because if we don't make an effect around us, then we have done nothing with our lives. And honestly, we have to help change our country one bit at a time to save it from the ruin that the communists and lefties want to totally destroy our country with. And we're going into the midterm, so we have to be serious about this. So please like, comment, subscribe, and thank you so much for watching The Ripple Effect.